Alright everyone, there's an ongoing sloganeering attempt by liberals and by some neocons actually, like the Romney and Cornyn types, to cast off the concept of MAGA, which is literally just a slogan, make America great again, as a form of fascism. Now it started with simply being labeled extreme. That's a fairly vacuous term. There's lots of subjugate elements to extremism, of course. You've got terrorism, bigots, you've got people who are simply different from yourself to a significant degree, and that is the most common usage of that term. Person doesn't believe as I do on an issue I find important. What a fucking extremist. You know, they should probably be censored for that. MAGA then was labeled semi-fascism by the Biden administration. Of course, originally it was just deplorable. It was reprehensible. That was back in the Hillary Clinton era. How far we've come. We're still at the witch trials, everyone. And now it's full fascism, according to, Brooklyn Dad Defiant and all these other morons on Twitter and the Reddit sphere and stuff. So they won't even go along with Führer Joe Biden, with Alzheimer's Adolf and his semi-fascism claim. Now it's real fascism. It's basically the same as Mussolini, I guess. Here's the problem. If you look at the hyperbolic stereotype of what comprises MAGA, according to the liberal mind, you will find a plethora of eclectic individuals. You've got content creators you don't like. You've got rural people that you don't like. Suspenders, hunting rifles. You've got dudes with plate carriers and Gadsden flags that you don't like. You've got people who are more wealthy than you and people who are less wealthy. And that's funny. The biggest juxtaposition, the biggest weird thing, and it's almost a contravention of their own ideological beliefs, within liberaldom is that the evil rich people are ruining everything, but it's all the evil bumpkins. It's all of the poor people who are causing that to happen. It's really, really warped. But MAGA's fascism is a hilarious joke. Let's look at what MAGA actually means beyond the slogan. The slogan was literally lifted from Ronald Reagan's early 80s campaign. And that's effectively how Donald Trump governed, by the way. When we talk about MAGA, it's inseparable from Donald Trump, the popularizer of that basic acronym, of the ideological sort of basis behind it, and still the leader of the populist movement in the United States. You can say Orange Man bad, Orange Man going to jail, Orange Man falling out of favor, polls don't show it, but it's being astroturfed as though it was real, blah, blah, blah. Okay, he's still the head of the populist movement in the United States. If we look at what it really means, it's effectively 1981-82 Ronald Reagan minus the war piggery. Well, that's not very extreme. You know, we voted for that before, and other than the war piggery, most people didn't have a problem with it because it was morning in America again. Look at the re-election bid and the landslide there. People had not really rejected that particular premise. The problem is mostly about walking the walk, though, not talking the talk. And that's why the lamestream has a problem with Donald Trump. It's not what he said during the campaign, and they would class him as crazy or extreme then, but that happens in every election anyway. People fling mud around constantly. We haven't had anything resembling a clean election since the 1980s, just to be clear. But thereafter, instead of doing what Obama and Bush and Reagan and Herbert Walker and Clinton and literally every other president in modern history has done, which is say, I'm going to solve the problem of illegal immigration. I'm going to fix the border. He said it, and then he actually attempted to do it. That was what they had a problem with. Instead of saying, I'm going to give broad tax relief to the working class and to small businesses, he said so, and then he did it successfully. And so they reacted by astroturfing and propagandizing and convincing a significant proportion of the population that somehow it was a tax cut for the super rich. That's funny because I don't feel super rich and I definitely got a tax cut. We'll get over that for right now. Instead of simply saying he was going to tackle issues or give people some sort of relief or reform, he actually at least attempted all of these things. You look at the ACA, which I think, again, in retrospect, and I said it at the time, going after the ACA first was a mistake. We had other problems that were more significant. And after 3 attempts to try to get things done in the Senate, even Rand Paul failed, and so they just said, okay, well, we're just going to repeal the ACA mandate, which was good. That was the most hated part of the ACA. It's been, unfortunately, I believe, restored now, which means that the super poor now enjoy a 2.5% tax on their earnings because they can't afford health insurance. This was considered a big and good thing by Obama, certainly by Joe Biden. He seemed to have no problem with it at the time. See, the difference is that MAGA represents actually attempting to do it, not simply say it. That's why it's fascism, according to these people. It's gotten to the point where the bread and circus has become so heroin-like and addictive that a lot of people seem to enjoy the perpetual anger of politics, and they want the politicians to piss them off by inaction or wrong action. And so they got more pissed, ironically, at Donald Trump over nothing, which was mean tweets. The nothing burger of him tweeting and, oh my God, he said something, he spelled something wrong. He said something that I find offensive online. Oh my God, this is terrible. It's literal fascism. You've got politicians that are spying on the media, co-opting the media, fucking having U.S. citizens assassinated, starting wars and doing all sorts of crazy shit. All of that, it just provokes the football team mentality to kick in, and people have their 2 minutes of rage for a while, and then they get over it. With Trump, it was a never-ending outrage bus, and the reason why is because he actually did what he campaigned on. This is, by the way, why I would love to vote for Trump in 2024. I hope he runs, and I hope that he wins. It would be nice to have that back. Certainly compared to the current alternative, it's going to be hard, I think, to scrape together anyone who's not a deep-seated Dem partisan or an outright leftist who would disagree with that basic premise. And the polls do show that. By the way, even in those Cook polls, you would expect a Trump advantage. It would be a landslide. But no, MAGA, to be clear, if you want fascism, insofar as U.S. policy goes, you'd have to approximate it more to someone like Klobuchar. Klobuchar has effectively made now a post-failed presidential career out of trying to gull big tech into censoring dissidents, into censoring people she disagrees with for ideological reasons. The fusion of state and corporate private power is fascism. That's effectively what it means. It's a brutalismus sort of fusing of the state's legal capability to persecute you with private industry's ability to hamstring you as well, of course. If you can't get a job, if you've been blacklisted or something like that, if goods are throttled to punish an area or a group of people or a business or whatever, and the government is involved directly or indirectly with that, that's effectively fascism. We're moving towards that in the United States as we speak. You have right now in New York Gabby Gifford's anti-gunnery nunnery group trying to get the New York State to take up a bill that would try to trace purchases of firearms using any form of card like Visa, MasterCard, and label them as suspicious or problematic purchases. Well, that's a violation of several U.S. constitutional amendments, number one. Number two, it is effectively fascistic. A person who's been involved in politics, has a lot of political contacts, is using that to try to get private groups to act in a certain manner through legal and extra-legal means. That much more closely approximates fascism. Trump is the anti-fascist president, ironically enough. Under his presidency, you saw nothing but obstruction and subversion in some cases. Look at what happened with the Syrian envoy and the troop totals there. That revelation was glossed over really quickly by the fucking legacy media, now wasn't it? Not without good reason for them for propaganda purposes. Trump was the most reluctant to drop bombs on people, to escalate tensions. Other than the mean tweets, what closely approximating even aggression did you get from the Trump administration? He says, I remember, best example I can give of the anti-fascism of Donald Trump. He says, in relation to the North Koreans being threatening for a while, he says, well, Kim, I have a red button on my desk too, and it actually works, and it's a lot bigger. And people flipped out and thought Trump was going to start a nuclear war. He became the first U.S. president to cross into the DPRK, and then he got crucified for saluting a soldier in North Korea, which, because he is the commander-in-chief of the U.S. Armed Forces, actually made decorum-wise sense at the time. It was not a gaffe. So he couldn't do anything right to the legacy media and to the lame establishment. He was either being too weak on an issue or too aggressive on an issue. Something had to be wrong because Orange Man bad. And the fact is that his administration was hamstrung by the reluctance of all the neocons among the House Republicans to fund his ventures for the first 2 years. It's the opposite of fascism. Not only did you not have cooperation between Trump's administration and private industry colluded with subversive government elements like the FBI to openly try to destroy the administration. Exactly the opposite of what you would expect under an authoritarian regime. That's about all. Peace out.